Hi, my name is Jim. I'm a professional gamer, full-time content creator, and this is going to be sort of a Q&A. It's a little off the cuff. I messaged you guys about 3 days ago. It's like, hey, I'm coming to your con. Let's see if we can do anything. But one thing I define what a professional content creator is, because people ask me what I do. Like I'll be playing basketball at the thing called Dad Ball in my town, where like it's a community basketball program. People are like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a professional gamer, and it's a very weird thing to quantify because they look at you and they're like, what the hell does that mean? And it means a lot of things. I was going to ask the audience what they thought that meant. So anyone wants to pop in. What does it mean to be a professional gamer?
You're good at a game, man.
You're good at a game? And that's honestly what people think. It's like there are professional level events. I do play in professional level events. But for a lot of my life in the late 2000s, I was playing on the Magic Pro Tour for like 2006, 2009. Played a lot of Pro Tours in Japan, Hawaii, Europe, Honolulu. And I was playing on the Pro Tour, but I was definitely not a professional in the sense where it was my job. I made about maybe 10 grand in those like 3 years from Magic, some plane tickets, stuff like that. And it was really, really cool. It was awesome. Wouldn't trade it for the world. It was really, really good experience. But it wasn't a career, And then took time out for school. Got back into Magic after school and started playing more on the SG Tour and started doing some content stuff. I started writing articles for StarCityGames.com. And that kind of got the ball rolling for me as far as content goes, which is like the true sort of bread and butter of any professional gamer for the most part. Unless you're playing like, Valorant or like some huge game where you're actually competing for large amounts of money, League of Legends, etc. You're not really making enough money from prize money unless you're the best in the world. And even then there's the risk of like, well, what if I have a bad year? What if I only make 20 grand this year rather than 70 grand or 80 grand or whatever? So I was writing an article for Star City and got into Twitch streaming. So Twitch streaming, of course, is a major part of any content creator's brand. Twitch and YouTube are my main primary brands. I do content on YouTube, content on Twitch. This is live streamed and both recorded. And a lot of what content creation is sort of pulling a bunch of small things together to form a big, large number. And then if that number is large enough to support yourself on, you're now a professional, which is great. And thankfully, it is for me, luckily. And so Twitch, YouTube, comes out through social media. I'll be on Twitter just messing around, posting a post, and like, that's work. I'm socially interacting. I'm, kind of putting myself out there in the ad space, sort of like just keeping myself relevant. It's PR, And so I do content full time, and I've been doing it now for 6-ish years. When I first started doing content full time, I wasn't doing that well because it was kind of like a newer thing for me. I won a large tournament. I won a lot of money, and I was like, all right, I'm taking this year. I'm going to try and do it and see how it goes. And then I had a major advantage over basically anyone else doing content because at that point, I'd been writing articles for maybe 4 or 5 years on a major site. I'd been playing Magic professionally for almost a decade at that point, and people knew who I was. So when I first started streaming, I had like 100 viewers immediately. And that's like the step that's like impossible for people where I want to stream. So they log on to Twitch, they make an account, they start streaming, and they have one viewer. Because realistically, why would someone want to watch them? It sounds like a little harsh, like why would they want to watch you? But that's the reality is that you need to have a reason why people watch you. So people watch me because they knew me. I played in tournaments, I'd done well in things. Oh, it's Jim Davis. He plays goblins. He plays blue light control. I like the deck he plays. I like the thing he does, that article he wrote, whatever it is. So I sort of skipped that really hard part of content creation by already having a name, but I didn't skip the hard part in the sense that I spent 10 years of my life playing Magic, traveling the world playing at events and not really making much money and, working, retail jobs. And I was very fortunate that I was able to live in my dad's house and kind of go to school part-time and kind of just bullshit off basically, which is a luxury a lot of people don't have. And I'm very privileged I have that. And I'm very lucky in that respect. So in a sense, I skipped the line, but in a sense, I also had a long time of kind of building up to it. So, and then once you have that brand, you have that job, now it's a job. And the thing people don't necessarily realize is that playing games for a living is not like just playing games. I'm live from 9 a.m. to 4 in the afternoon. That's my stream for the day. Like a lot more of what I do is in the period outside of that than in that. That's the fun part. That's where I'm just playing. I'm on camera. I'm joking around, having a good time. But the setup before that, setup after that, it comes down to basically I'm a business. I'm a one-person business, and I'm responsible for everything that I do. I'm my PR guy. I'm my graphics guy. I'm my editor. I'm the talent or whatever, the person who's actually performing. I'm my operations manager, my business whatever person managing money. I got to manage my sponsorships. I got to talk to potential clients. I got to negotiate my article stuff. And it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And I try and explain it to people in that, like, I'm playing games for a living. That's really, really cool, but I'm never off. Because when you do your hobby for a living, you're always working. It's kind of a passion project kind of thing. And you're also it's just you. If I'm an accountant and I go to work. I go to work, clock in at 9, do what I got to do. My boss tells me to do this. 5 o'clock, I'm out. I'm done. I go home, I can do whatever I want. I can play games. I can go play basketball. I can go hang out with my kids, whatever I want to do. I'm out on the clock till 9 a.m. the next morning. Whereas when you're a content creator and you're kind of a one-man show, you are always on. I have a meeting at 9 p.m. or I got to get these videos up, or I got to plan out my next article, or I got to do this and that. And then also if it's just playing the game where I want to make sure I'm playing my game enough where I'm still good at it, obviously. And so you're playing a game, but that game time isn't really always completely game time because you're on. People ask me, oh, Jim, where do you play Magic locally? Oh, do you play Magic locally? Where's your local store? And I go, I don't play Magic locally. Like, it's my job. I play Magic 60 hours a week, so when it's fun time for me, I'll go play Switch. I'll go play StarCraft or whatever it is. I still love Magic. It's great, but there's a real, I don't want to say cost because it's obviously great and I'm very grateful for it, but it's a bit of a cost in having your hobby be your job in that respect. And it's hard to draw that line between when you're working and not working to points where my wife will come down at midnight and be like, Jim, come to bed. You've been on the computer since 9 a.m. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I have, and it's a different job in that respect where it's just pros and cons, like there always is, obviously. And I am very, very grateful to do what I do, but I think it's much more than people think it is in that respect. That's basically what I had so far. It's just like me talking. Supposed to have a Q&A too. So if you have questions, fire away. I mean, how to get into content creation is a big thing. Go nuts, all of you. One at a time, please. One at a time, please.
I have a question.
Question, up at the top.
How do you manage not working 24/7?
Question, sorry.
Turning things off so that you can not burn out. Because if you're going 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., I imagine that's going to burn out a lot, 7 days a week.
So the question is, how do you manage basically always being on? Kind of the not having certain hours and stuff like that. And it's funny because it's a major topic of concern for content creators and for honestly anyone who owns their own business at home. And I was at a TwitchCon in 2019. I did a 5-hour seminar there. And there was a whole section on that, basically, of things you can do to make it so you can kind of set a work-life balance. It's hard. And one of the ones they said, what I liked a lot, I don't do it myself, but it's a cool idea, is that you should literally get up in the morning, you should walk out of your house, walk around the block and walk in your house, and now you're at work. And then work your day, do the same thing and leave. I don't do that. It's a cool idea, but maybe I should do that one day. But it's just the idea of trying to find the separation. I have been fortunate. My wife in the last 6 months has been learning YouTube and stuff, been working with me now. So she can do my YouTube stuff and I can I try and clock out by 6 usually. But I think that it's mostly about just setting boundaries, just being all right, I know there's a million things to do. I have a lot of things I have to do, but I have to cut it at 6. 6 o'clock, I'm done. I'll just make a list of things I got to do tomorrow, kind of get it off. And then, occasionally you'll have a night stream. I'll play tournaments at night sometimes, which is kind of cool. You'll have a meeting at 9 p.m. if that's the time they can do it. So you have to kind of blur the lines a little bit, but you still need to try and just set some sort of boundary and some sort of limits to what you can do, basically. It's hard. It's very, very difficult. And I think that I've gotten better at it maybe in the last year. But I would say there was a period where I was just literally 9 a.m. to midnight almost every day, and it was too much, which is why my wife is helping me now, which is great.
I got a question.
Fire away.
All right, cool. So, whether it be tournament-wise or casually, do you have a personal favorite deck that you like to use, or is it just whatever goes?
So the question is, tournament or personally, favorite deck? Yeah, there's definitely things I gravitate towards. I've always liked obviously goblins in different formats, control decks. There's an amount of deck selection because what I do is two-sided, right? There's content, which is where I'll just play anything. You know, in my content, I'm part of the thing that I do in my content, which honestly is almost a bad thing in some ways, is I do everything. I will play the old formats. I'll play the new formats. I'll draft. I'll play an arena. I'll play Magic Online. And I think it's in some ways bad. Some content creators like Covert Go Blue are like really good. They do the one thing. They play one format. They go there every day. You know exactly what you're going to get. And for viewership wise, that's better. For me, I probably hurt myself a little bit from a viewership standpoint by doing too many things, but it's good for me, like my mental state, but whatever. So for content wise, I'll play anything. You know, I want to try all the different decks. You know, I'll try things that look weird, things that are good, things that are bad. You know, I'll do different shows where I'll try and like have a show where I'm just playing a deck that's bad. You know, what happens when you play this bad deck? You know, or I'll play a really good deck or whatever it is. You know, and then for tournaments, it's a bit different. You know, I've been playing in tournaments. I spent a lot of time when I first started doing content where I was also trying to be like a traveling tournament player also. Didn't really work because it was just like I was half-assing both things kind of thing. But lately I've been playing more tournaments, playing like the online pro level events and stuff. And hopefully I'll qualify for something like Worlds and stuff like that coming up soon. But for pro level events, it's less about having fun and more about winning. You know, and there are definitely decks that I gravitate towards, control decks. But I'll mostly play what I think will give me the best chance to win, which is not a very fun answer. You know, like where like, yeah, I think this Goblin deck is really, really good, but like I did play Goblins in Pro Tour Barcelona. It was at Mythic Championship 4, I think. That was in 2019, I think. And I did think it was very good at that point. I think that if like my life had been on the line, I might have played a different deck, you know, because I knew going in that like, yeah, it's a Pro Tour, it's great, but like it's a good, you know, PR opportunity as well. Playing Goblins in a big event, I think it's good enough where I can play it. You know, it's good. I think I went like 6-4, whatever, with the Goblin deck, which is fine, you know, but so there's an amount of that. And it's also a thing to balance where 10 years ago when I was playing in Pro Tours, I was almost antisocial. Like I didn't even want to write articles because I didn't like the idea of like being known as the writer guy. And there was a cliche back then that like writers and content creators weren't very good. Not to diss anybody, like Mike Flores was known back then. Phenomenal writer. He wrote some of the Bible lore for Magic back then, but was never a great player. Never really saw much Pro Tour success. You know, kind of like this like stigma around it. And I just wanted to like play in my room, practice the Pro Tour. I'd work on whatever decks were good. No one was watching, you know. And like it's funny that I went from that to now I'm just like, I'm gonna hit my fart soundboard, you know, like I'm playing Goblins. Here we go, play the theme song, you know. But it's interesting, kind of doing both sides of it. But it's cool. I don't know, it works out. So, answer your question. Yeah. All right, cool. Anyone else?
How has content creation helped your gameplay?
How has content creation helped my gameplay? I think it's hurt. I'm worse now than I was, I think, you know, maybe 10 years ago when I was like really, really focusing on it. I think that one thing that hasn't really come up too much is just emoting, where I know I'm much more visually emotive now when I play. When I used to play in Pro Tours like 10 years ago, I was just like, you know, nothing. I was just like a machine, like a, you know, stoic, non-feeling statue, you know. And now, like, it's my job to play Magic and be like, oh shit, you know, or whoa, look at that, you know. And like now I've played in the pro level events I've played in the last few years, obviously online, not on paper because of COVID and stuff. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen when I go back to playing paper because you can't be emotive at the table, obviously. So that's definitely a thing that's changed as far as like gameplay goes. But I think I'm a little like looser now because I'm so used to kind of playing in a more loose, fun way. I often say that on stream I play at like 70%, you know, where I'm playing at like 70% of my possible skill level if I were to play up to my potential, you know, and that's still pretty good, you know, it's fine. You know, I think that like to my top level potential, I'm pretty good. I'm not like a world-class player or anything, but I'm good enough to compete at like a pro level pretty well. So at a content level, 70% of that's good enough, basically. You know, it's good enough to be, you know, I'll throw some games on stream playing bad, whatever, but it's I think some of that does leak into my regular day-to-day play when I'm trying to play seriously because I'm kind of used to playing loosey-goosey. So I think to answer your question, on the whole, it has hurt my overall play. But the best thing about doing content creation is that I don't need to win any matches. You know, like the real goal for a content creator is to put yourself in a spot where you're making a good living to support yourself and you can lose every match you play. because you don't need to win anything. And if you do well in a tournament, oh wow, I won $4,000 in a tournament. That's great. That's a bonus. You know, when I was doing it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was living tournament to tournament. I was a degenerate. I was working retail part-time. I go to a pro tour. I'd spend a couple $1,000s. All right, let's go buy a whole pizza, not a half pizza, you know? And then I would milk that money for a few months back to being, you know, like I would like sell decks on eBay. I would like build decks, like, you know, a Goblin deck on eBay. It was like $1 worth of cards, and I'd sell on eBay for $10. I was just selling cards left and right. It was just like a real grind, you know? And that sucked, basically. You know, it's the same reason why I wouldn't want to play poker for a living, where poker players have the same problem where if you're good at poker, it's great, but like, what happens when that bad month rolls around? You know, now you have this bad month, now you're down like 10 grand, you know, where you should be up 10 grand that month. And now you need to go into your next month like, oh shit, like I'm down like 10 grand, I got to make some money up. And now you're playing with that pressure on your back too, you know, and it adds a whole level of that also. So I think that most important thing for being a full-time Magic player in particular and content player creator in general is trying to make sure that your income comes from sponsorships, comes from Twitch, comes from YouTube, comes from content, and then your results is just a bonus.
To kind of flip that question around, now that Pro Tour is like going back to in person, how do you think that's gonna affect the content that you're putting out? Because you brought up earlier that like you do kind of need to be in a more like serious mindset at the pro level. So do you think that would leak into the content that you're creating? Do you think you'd be like making more professional content, or do you think you'd like kind of stick with what you have, like trying to like find that balance between like content and professional?
So the question is, with the Pro Tour coming back, basically, will my content shift a little bit to be more serious, or will I kind of keep doing what I'm doing and then also try and play pro events when I can? Is that clear enough? Yeah. It's not going to change much. The thing is that at this point now in my career, you know, I realize that this is my job. You know, like, and I love playing in pro level events. I love playing high level Magic. It's really one of my favorite things to do. But it's a kind of thing where I can't forfeit my livelihood for it. You know, like I could just like settle in and be like, all right, I'm just gonna practice this pro tour for the next month. You know, I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm not gonna do my shows. I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm just gonna be playing, you know, Rakdos mid-range for the next, you know, 3 weeks nonstop on stream. And like, there's a market for that where some players do want to see just a high-level player playing high-level decks. It's why you see streamers who are not necessarily personable, but really good, like Reed Duke. Like, I love Reed. He's the best dude in the world. He's not the most entertaining person on stream. Because he doesn't need to be. He really is like just one of the best Magic players in the world. You watch Reed Duke because he's playing Jund right now, or he's playing whatever deck is good right now. He's going to play it at an insanely high level, talk through his plays, and you're watching someone play well, basically. You know, there's a market for that, but it's less of a market than just the kind of more casual, like play fun decks, play fun brews, mix it up. So I don't think that I would forfeit my content for that in general. I do have an event coming up in May. It's the New Capenna Championship, where if I do well at that event, I will qualify for Worlds and a bunch of Pro Tours. And like, it's a very big, important event for me. And I am going to put a lot of work into it, but still not at the cost of my content. Maybe I'll, you know, hemorrhage off 15% of my usual content and focus a little more on the pro stuff. But I'm not going to hurt my business and brand, basically, is the thing. You know, because that's the thing. It's a business, you know. And just like your business wouldn't want to stop selling everything else and only sell, you know, whatever, hammers, I don't know, whatever, you know, like whatever it is, you know, focus on the one thing. You just only need to do your business. So a little bit, but mostly not.
Do you play Magic for fun?
When do I play for fun? Not that often, honestly, you know, realistically. And it sounds weird as I'm a Magic player, but like, you know, when it comes to downtime, I usually want to do something else, you know, and like, it's not, I still love Magic. Magic's great. You know, I love cube drafting. If I'm going to play Magic for fun, it's usually going to be like a cube draft. Occasionally, Nicole and I will go to like a local Modern event, play 4 rounds, you know, like, but like we'll go once every few months. You know, it's kind of like, let's go. It's Saturday night. We got nothing to do. Let's go play Modern or whatever. But like for the most part, it's not. I'm just like, all right, I'm just playing more Magic. You know, like, you know, and there is also like, I love meeting people. I love definitely talking to everyone. I'm insanely grateful for what I do. And whenever someone's like, oh, you're Jim Davis, like, I couldn't be happier to be like, oh, yeah, thank you so much for watching my content, you know? But there is a point where you kind of want to just be off and do your thing. And, like, if I go to a local event, I can't necessarily do that. Not to say that I don't love everyone coming up to me and it's me saying hi, but, like, it's it's hard to be off in that respect, you know. So usually if it's more casual Magic, you know, a cube draft at the house, we do a barbecue to a cube draft and stuff like that. But I'll play my phone a little bit, you know, a little arena here and there. But you know, I don't play a ton of Magic outside of my content because I just do it so much. It's hard though, because it's kind of weird. You it just sounds weird. You know, you don't play Magic for fun. Like what? Like everyone plays Magic. We love Magic, you know. But it's just it's a lot. I just do a lot.
How did you get started with the story behind that? What was like your first game like?
I'm sorry, what was that?
So how did you get started? What was the story behind that? And what was your first game like? What did you feel?
Like first started playing?
Yeah, like your very first game.
It's funny actually. I never meant to play Magic. So, I mean, this is like 2001 or whatever. My buddy Matt came in my room one day, you know, after school and brought over like a starter kit of Magic. And I remember he was like, dude, play this game with me. I'm like, what is it? It's like Magic the Gathering. It's like the card game. And I'm like, that sounds real lame, man. I don't know. As I turned to my computer and played Diablo Was in the Corn, you know, like I'm really cool. But and like he basically forced me to play with him, you know. And then Matt's probably my best friend, and Matt is basically the exact opposite of me, where he's like super scatterbrained. Like it's Magic today, it's surfing tomorrow, it's this, you know. And I'm the opposite. I do a thing and I just jump into it. So within 2 or 3 weeks, he had totally stopped playing, and I had gotten really, really into it. And then from there, like playing in high school, and then Magic Online came out, like the first online version of Magic in like 2002 or whatever. I started playing that, and then it just, from there, it just kept going. I've been playing for 20 years now. It's crazy. So yeah, it's very funny though, because like Matt loves surfing, and when I qualified for my first pro tour in 2006, it was in Hawaii. And I called Matt, and I'm like, hey man, I'm going to a pro tour in Hawaii. I finally did it. I finally won a qualifier. He's like, you're going to Hawaii to freaking play cards? Like, I want to go surf in Hawaii. Screw you, man. You know, I'm like, oh, you should get playing. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I think about how different my life would be if he had just been like, okay, you know, play, sure, whatever, and walked out of my room. You know, like it's crazy to think. But any other questions?
Is there any things you did to your content that you noticed that helped it grow your audience? Anything in particular that comes to mind?
Question is things I've done to help grow my audience. I mean, it's weird as like I've been doing a lot of things in the last few years. I've been trying to up my production values. I have a soundboard now. I have like theme songs for a lot of my shows. And it's interesting seeing the ups and downs. It's kind of like you're riding a bigger wave. For example, in the last like 5 years, Magic has changed a lot. You know, when Arena came out in 2018, I think it was a huge boost in Magic numbers. Before that, you know, there were maybe 5 or 6 like big Magic streamers all playing Magic online, and big was a limit. You know, there was really like a peak to how high you could go playing Magic in the Magic category on Twitch. When Arena came out, it blew up. You know, a bunch of like different game players from Hearthstone and Gwent came to Magic. The numbers were really, really big, and then they kind of went down a little bit and up and down. You know, so it's hard to sometimes quantify like what it is that I'm doing versus what's the overall trend kind of thing. I definitely try to do new things. I think that one of the things I like to do in my content is try and just not be someone sitting there and playing a game. You know, I try and like make it fun, kind of keep it almost improv-y. There's a streamer I love called the Sushi Dragon. I don't know who knows who he is, but he's insane. He streams himself dancing and like basically just like hanging out. But he uses like 40 cameras and green screens and effects. He's controlling all these like different effects like live and stuff. And like that kind of stuff of just like taking the medium of streaming and just trying to do more with it is like a thing I try and do a lot. And like I'm not nearly anywhere near what he does. It's great. You should check him out. But I think that that's helped me a lot. Just sort of trying to view it more as entertainment than just playing a game. And I think that part of what the like allure to me, I guess, whatever, as a content creator is that I'm a good mixture of entertaining, where I have production values. I definitely kind of make it like a fun show. I'm always kind of uppity, making jokes. You know, I've got theme songs and yada yada yada. But I also have a competitive pedigree where I've succeeded in events before and I have good results and things like that. And a lot of content creators in Magic are one or the other, where they're Reed Duke. They're insanely good. You know, they're good at talking through their lines and stuff like that, but they're not like putting on a show, not a showman, you know? And you have people who are really good at putting on a show, but don't really have the results to back it up necessarily. So I think that like that's served me well.
friends and everyone are very like, kind of like engineers and like they've got like high, like very well educated. I was just thinking of Magic in terms of school. Like, is there, I don't know, just a little abstract, but is there a possibility to like bring it into schools and have, because I really think that through Magic there's a lot of logical reasoning, mathematics, and the way like chess has been implemented in different cultures, and like can like Magic become something where it could be an extracurricular activity within schools and the kids will benefit from that.
So the question is about how can Magic sort of have a place in scholastics? You know, like a game like chess does, where can it have a place as far as learning goes? I think absolutely. I think that the challenge is that like Magic is an ever evolving game. You know, there's always new cards coming out, always new sets coming out. The rules aren't necessarily changing, but they're being bent a lot of the time. Whereas a game like chess, obviously, it's very, very simple. Chess is always chess no matter what. Whereas Magic 10 years ago looks different from Magic now. It's still the same game, but like it's just, you know, if it changes by an inch every year, and by 10 years, it's obviously, you know, whatever, however long it is. But I think absolutely. I know there are school programs that do that. I know there are programs, I don't recall the name of the program, but there was once a program that went around to tournaments getting old cards. You just give them their cards, and they would just send them out to schools and libraries and stuff like that, which is really cool. I think it's a great idea. I think you're totally correct that Magic not only draws in people who tend to be very intelligent, but is a good way to just really get your brain working, especially for younger brains, as far as like kind of like problem solving, figuring things out. The kind of problem with that is that at times Magic can be very consuming, where there are definitely a lot of very smart people who will get consumed by Magic and kind of just only do Magic for a period of time. I mean, I've fallen victim to that. A lot of people have. You know, it's such an all-encompassing game. It's very, very easy to get lost in it, and there really isn't an end to Magic. Like, because there's always new cards, there's always new sets. There isn't like a final, you know, like you can just keep learning and building and learning and doing more stuff. So I think that I know that people will talk about like pro Magic players. If you took all the pro Magic players at any one time and like took away Magic and put them in like a engineering field or whatever, they would all go nuts and do great. But they're so into Magic, they're just not doing that, you know? And I'm very, very lucky in the sense that like, I feel like I was kind of like that too, you know, and I ended up doing Magic for a living, you know, and I went back to school after my Pro Tour stuff because I was like, I'm not making any money. And went back to school for a bit. I was going to teach. I actually graduated from Stony Brook. I taught at a private school for a year while I was like really ramping up Magic, had a really good year of Magic and just left it behind, you know, but that could have been me for sure, you know. So it's, to answer your question, yes, I think that Magic would be great in schools, honestly. I think it would be a wonderful thing, and that the commons in Magic are basically garbage. Like, people just throw them away. So, like, I think that, you know, getting 5,000 cards for a school and some basic lands, just build decks and, you know, whatever, would be a very easy thing to do, and it'd be awesome. I think it'd be really, really cool. Cool. A variety. This question was a favorite format. I just like variety of Magic. And like I said earlier, I think it hurts my content a little bit, where if I were to focus on one thing, for example, like Covert Go Blue does only Arena, only Standard. And because of that, you know on his channel, you know exactly what you're getting. You know, Aspiring Spike does only Modern. He streams Modern every day. He's playing Modern. That's it. And you know exactly what they're getting. Both of them are killing it in their own formats. Whereas I think that like it hurts me a bit to bounce around. But as far as like Burnout and Sanity goes, like I just like a variety. You know, if I were to only play one format straight through all the time, I could make it work, but it wouldn't be as fun for me. So I like a variety of all formats. You know, I enjoy Modern a lot. I like drafting. As far as like casual stuff, I like cube drafting a lot. I maintained a cube for a long time. But I think that for me, variety is maybe a bit of a detriment, but keeps me sane.
I got 3 questions. One is for your YouTube channel. Do you get, like, we were talking about your business before, do you get kind of sweaty about the YouTube analytics? Like, do you go look at average age or the average location, or what sort of YouTube insights do you get from the YouTube platform about who's watching you or who's playing Magic or something like that?
This question is about analytics on YouTube in general. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get lost in that kind of stuff because, like I said, like it is a bigger wave, you know, where you can look at your analytics and be like, well, this month I had more viewers. there are always external factors that aren't just your content. You kind of keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, I definitely peek into that a lot. You know, it's important for sponsors. Sponsors always want to see your analytics and to know what your numbers are and things like that. And you can definitely go back and try and find the trends, but it's hard. YouTube in particular is very fickle. I was actually looking through my stuff yesterday. Just kind of like going back, looking at all my old videos. And my videos now average maybe 8,000 views a video, whereas 3 years ago, they'd average like 20,000 views a video. I'm not really sure why. You know, like I think that I'm actually making more money now than I was then on YouTube. I think I'm running more ads maybe. I don't really know exactly. But trying to kind of figure out the question of like why in those things is important. I think I've spread out a lot and Magic spread out a lot. Whereas when I first started, it was only Magic Online. So it always looked the same, you know, and now with Arena and Magic Online, some people can't stand Arena. It's too expensive. Some people can't stand Magic Online. Looks like Windows 95. Some people can't stand anything online. They want paper stuff, you know? So there's a lot of divides in Magic right now, which make it like a little harder because it's you do this, and these people hate it. You do this, these people hate it. It's hard to find your niche and kind of stuff. So the analytics are definitely there. They're hard to parse. They're important, but it's the kind of thing where you can like drive yourself totally crazy looking at numbers. One really good piece of advice for a new streamer is turn off your view counter. You should be able to stream as if that number is relevant. You know, like you're in a room and you're streaming, that's it. Doesn't matter if it's 10 viewers, 100 viewers, whatever it is, because you can find your eyes drifting to it. Oh, I have 6 viewers. Oh, now I have 5. Oh, what happened? Where'd that person go? And like, who knows, man? They, you know, had to go to dinner or whatever, or whatever it was, you know, like, so you definitely want to keep an eye on the numbers as far as like the business back end stuff, but you should always try and do it from like a bird's eye perspective, not from a day-to-day perspective, because you would drive yourself insane.
Kind of related to that, obviously I think the demographics of Magic, it's like kind of the same high school kids from 2002. I'm right there with you. So, and like I kind of go to Magic, Friday Night Magic. I see a lot of 35-year-olds there. I kind of remember seeing a lot of 15-year-olds there when I was a 15-year-old or something like that. Do you see that reflected on YouTube? Do you think Wizards has that in mind, that they're sort of catering more to people who have nostalgia for this? Like, what do you think about the demographic trends of Magic overall?
This question is about demographics in Magic, sort of like the fact that your average Magic player is often like a 35-year-old, you know, usually somewhat well-to-do. I think it's the cost of the game, honestly. You know, it's the kind of thing where you can play when you're younger, but you got to like scrap together to buy a deck or whatever it is. When you're older and you have a job and you're, you know, more stable, you can, all right, I'll buy a modern deck, whatever, sure. You know, and I think that is an issue for Wizards that I think they should be more aware of. I think that Wizards has been somewhat short-sighted in the last few years as far as like trying to make a lot of money now, but not thinking about the future kind of thing. You know, and there's a big thing in content creation and everything. You know, there's acquisition and retention. So acquisition is getting in new people, and retention is keeping the folks that you have. You know, so you do the fan servicey stuff for your crowd you already have, and you do the hey, come play this game stuff for the newer crowd you want to get. And I think they've been very good on retention, but not as good on acquisition, which is a concern because like people will stop playing eventually. So I think it's definitely an issue. Cost being a big one, of course, but just also main business plan. For example, Arena is just so expensive to play, and it's just like it's a mobile game, it's a computer game. You know, like League of Legends is like almost free basically, where they make money on skins. They make money on the bonus stuff, whereas Arena really, really grinds you if you want to play. It can cost a lot of money, and that's short-sighted, and to the point where also younger people can't necessarily afford to play competitively. You know, it's hard to get into the game. So there's a barrier there, and I think it's easier for older folk to play. There is some level of nostalgia, of course, for sure, you know, of people who played when they were younger. I'm not sure exactly why, you know, people play more when they were younger, got into it more, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure I can do a market study on that or whatever, but it is a concern, I think. Cool, yep. Anyone else? Questions, comments, concerns, general obscenities? Sure.
You mentioned Coberto Bloom. He made a video ballpark a year ago where he talked like very clearly about some of how much money he made. And I was like pretty. Do you know the video I'm talking about?
Yeah, I saw it.
What do you think of YouTubers making a video like that? Is that good for the community? Is that
I think it is good. It's funny because like I've considered doing something like that, but like it does feel kind of personal. But I also am of the mind that like everyone should discuss what they make because it helps everyone else know what they're worth. I make less than him, but I'm also doing pretty well. You know, I think it's the kind of thing where it's also like he does really, really well. Like he is like probably the biggest Magic YouTuber now. I don't know if Tellerian's bigger or not, but like he's killing it. He does a really, really good job. We've worked on a few things together, and he has a really, really good mind for like finding the right thing to do and then doing it. You know, he found a really good niche, whatever the word is. You know, as far as best of one goes, because a lot of people like me, we're tournament players. So I play best of three, but a lot of people play best of one. So there's an unserved audience. He found the unserved audience. He served it to him. He's very consistent. So, you know, he did a video every day for whatever, 1,000 days or whatever it was, you know, so he finds the right things you're supposed to do and then does them very well. And he's been rewarded for it for sure. And, you know, it's funny because like, I know years ago, he had looked up to me as a content creator, you know, as like, cause he was still kind of small and starting out. He was like, oh, it's Jim, you know, we played in like a tournament. He's like, oh, it's lucky to play against you. And now I'm like, damn, man, you know, you're killing it now. This is great. But I think that, yeah, I'll also throw my throat a little bit, but yeah. So, yeah, cool. It's kind of weird too though because CGB is very, very YouTube focused. Like, I don't know what his exact numbers are for everything. I mean, his number of that video he made like $250,000 right in the last year. It was 360. It was a lot. It was like $300,000 in a year, that's a lot of freaking money for YouTube. Yeah, it's a lot, you know, and I don't know what he makes in other things. You know, for example, like my income is more spread out. You know, I would say that right now about a third of my income is from my CoolStuffInc.com writing contract. So I do articles for them. They sponsor me. And then about maybe a third to a quarter is Twitch. A third to a quarter is YouTube. And the remaining, you know, quarter or whatever the maths out to be is sponsorships. You know, so it's pulling from a lot of different things at once, which is, I think, beneficial because if for some reason tomorrow YouTube explodes, CGB's like, you know, oh shit, now what? You know, and I know when I went to that seminar at TwitchCon I mentioned earlier, we're at my table and we're discussing revenue streams at the table. Like, what does everyone do? And people were like, oh yeah, I make, you know, X on Twitch. That's all I make. I'm like living hand to mouth. And I'm like, do you have another revenue stream? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, like, why not? You know, like it's a business, you know, like you should have multiple avenues. You really need to spread yourself out and get your areas because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, what if Twitch blows up tomorrow? You know, what if my writing contract ends tomorrow? What if, you know, like, so by having multiple areas, you're not only giving yourself a chance for growth, you know, I get new sponsors, I get a new article contract, I get a new this, whatever, you know, but you're also making sure you're protected if things go wrong in some way. So it's a somewhat uncomfortable topic to talk about, but I think it is important to, and I think that's the kind of thing where people don't necessarily think about it, you know, when they're getting into content creation. I thought there'd be more questions like that also as far as like getting into content creation, but like you really need to be able to build yourself a safe house of ways to make money before you can actually go into full-time content creation. You know, it's not the kind of thing you just do. You don't just wake up in the morning and be, you know, I'm gonna be a content creator. That's gonna be my job. And now you're a content creator. Like usually you do it in a very similar manner to like what you do like in the arts. Like I wanna be in a band. You don't like go play Madison Square Garden. You like put a band together, play some shitty bars, you know, like, and maybe if you are doing really good, people like you play a bigger bar, maybe you open up for another band, and like eventually you get to a point where like, okay, we're at high enough on the ladder now where I can actually support myself doing this. I'm gonna do it. And content's the same way. You know, you can't really just like dive into it. A lot of content creators have a second job, which makes total sense. And then if you get a point where you can get out of that and do only content, cool. But the point up to that point is very challenging and requires you to balance your income from content, your regular income, and like make sure you have enough to jump in and be able to do it. Hi, new folks, questions?
In case YouTube explodes, are there any new emerging platforms you're interested in or new technologies that can show promise that you can use for your brand and your place?
So the question is, in case YouTube explodes, are there other places to go, other things that I'm looking at? Yeah, not really. I know, Mixer was a thing for a little bit, you know, and there's the part of the strength of like a platform like YouTube is like, I didn't start there. I was only Twitch. I remember I made my YouTube sort of like on a whim. I was just like, oh, I guess I should have a YouTube, right? But YouTube's user base is unbelievable. Everyone uses YouTube, like literally everyone. So because of that, it has a lot of eyes to show your content to. Whereas like, say there's a new platform like Mixer, which is already dead. Why would I want to share a Mixer? Because no one's really there yet, So it would be a major blow to content creators if either Twitch or YouTube went down because of that. Like there is like Facebook gaming and there's like a few other places you can stream to or put videos on and stuff. But a major strength to those platforms is just everyone's there. And you need to be where people are so people can watch your content. Part of it is, you are at the mercy in some ways of the algorithm on YouTube. Like, will they show your video? They won't show your video, but the eyes are there and they're there to watch. Whereas on a new platform, that's a risk. So it'd be pretty wild. If something bad happens, Twitch or YouTube, things would get really chaotic for a while until one company probably took the reins and became that new big main face.
Do you have a favorite meme?
Favorite meme?
Yeah.
Like meme format or like what do you mean?
Meme format, it doesn't matter.
I like the Anakin and Padme format. That one's funny. I like those. Any other questions? Don't be shy. We got a crowd now too. This is great. Cool. Well, yeah, I actually expected a little more about like people wanting to get into content creation. If anyone has any questions about that, is anyone like here do content themselves, want to stream on Twitch, things like that?
Yeah, I guess I could ask like, I know you didn't have to deal with that barrier between like trying to like find that audience and then like keeping them. What would you like recommend for like someone that is like just starting out, like blank slate, like 0 views? Like what would you recommend like to try and like get that attention, or is it just like based?
So the question is, for someone just starting out in content, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, you're at 0 viewers. How do you go from there, basically? And like I said earlier, I skipped that part, basically, because I was already known when I started doing content. It's very difficult. The most important thing, I think, like by far, bar none, is you need to ask yourself the hard question of, why would anyone want to watch you? And like, it sounds like a harsh thing to say, but the reality is like, why is someone going to go out every day, not play, whatever, Switch, not watch Mr. Beast or whatever? Why are they going to watch you? And you need to find the answer to that question, and it can be based on the content that you do. For example, like CGB, all right, no one's doing best of one. I'm gonna do best of one. I'm a best of one guy. That's gonna be me. It can be, of course, you're really good at the game. Maybe you're mythic #1 a lot or whatever it is. It can be because you're really, really funny. It can be because, whatever it is, you almost need to have like that mission statement of like, why me? Why are you gonna watch me and not watch someone else you could watch, And you need to kind of like think about it, figure out what it is you want to be, galvanize it, and then work towards it completely. Like I think personally, my mission statement is basically, I'm entertaining, but I'm also good. Where like I have a competitive resume. I play in larger events. I have that kind of serious background where I can teach you, and you can watch my content to learn and get better at the game. But it's not boring. Like I'm also just like, I'm fun and joking around, keep it loose, keep it exciting, try and keep it almost like a show more than just a gameplay or whatever. So that's the most important thing, I think, by far. I think also like inserting yourself into communities is good too. If you're involved in other streams, keeping yourself vocal and visible, and also providing a service too. Like I know there's like a dude, Fire Shoes, on Twitter, and like he's just some dude, but he always tweets about all the new decks. Whenever there's a tournament result, he retweets it, and he's like one of the most important followers on Twitter if you play Magic, because he just like his feed is everything you need to know about Magic at the time, and like. He's just some dude. He just started doing that. But he found a need that was there in the community. He served it, and now he's got 10,000 followers or whatever. So most important thing is just finding what you need to do and trying to find a way to do it. And it's really, really hard. It's like really, really, really hard. I'm sure there are 100 great streamers right now streaming to one person, and they're killing it. They have a great setup. They have a great stick. They have a great presence, but no one's watching. Just like I'm sure there's like a great band playing right now in some shitty bar in like Montana or whatever, and they're an amazing, amazing band, but no one's hearing them and no one's ever heard them, and no one's going to hear them because they just didn't make it in that way. So there's always an element of that, being in the right place, right time kind of thing. But you can give yourself the best chance by kind of following those sorts of things. Cool. Any other questions? One more. Was that one more, or we're going to do one more? It's the last question of the day. Someone could have the opportunity to do the very last question and close this thing out. Why do I like Merfolk? Why do I like Merfolk? From like a philosophical standpoint or like a deck building standpoint? Merfolk are kind of, they don't really do a lot. Most of the Merfolk shtick is like, this Merfolk makes these Merfolk bigger. That's it. Whereas goblins, you get to draw cards, you get to kill things, cantrips, card advantage. You know, Merfolk's just like, here's a lord, here's a lord, here's a lord. And they're just fish people. Doesn't make sense. How does your Merfolk get on land to fight my goblin? Like, I'm not going in the water. I'm up here. You know, so that's what I got. Cool. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. It's a little kind of off-the-cuff impromptu Q&A. It ended up being really great. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. My name is Jim Davis. I'm on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. I'm on Instagram and TikTok now. It's a brand new thing. All under Jim Davis MTG. I don't know what TikTok is, but I'm on it. Not very hip or with it, but so yeah, Jim Davis MTG on everything. And thanks for hanging out, and thanks for your questions, and you're all great. Thanks, folks.